Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend betting. I know we did on the divisional round. Things were looking pretty good for the team. As for today, we're going to hop right back on and go to Conference Championship, just doing a little bit of a preview, breaking down some thoughts, thinking out loud, showing you guys what the model has, some player props we like, but of course we'll give out more throughout the week. And we also have some money to be made tonight, as always, NBA, college basketball, NHL. So a lot to get through today. We're going to get right into it. First, me and Steven got to show you the divisional round recap here. Little 11-5 moment here. Derek with both kicker props. Love that. Love that. And overall, pretty good weekend. A better Sunday than Saturday, I will say.
Yeah, well, nothing is better than the Ravens dominating Houston in the second half. So I will take the 2-4 in that game in exchange for the win.
Yeah, whatever. Our last team member standing with the team in the playoffs. I guess we're all now. And I got the Joe Flacco picture as mentioned out. So
yeah,
I'm also now a Ravens fan. All right, let's head into the two games. Again, we do have picks to get through for tonight, for Monday night slate. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Any questions about the NFL too as well. We're just going to talk through some things. We'll start with the AFC Championship here. You can see from the model projected score 20-25. We do like the Ravens to cover here.
Yeah, the line's -3.5 pretty much everywhere. You can get -3. I checked right before the game. And you probably want to get that now. I don't think it's going to go to 2.5. 9 games versus excluding week 18 where they were resting their stars. The Ravens are 7-2 against playoff opponents with an average score of Baltimore 32, opponent 16. It's historically great. The Chiefs are just 3-4 versus playoff teams, 1-4 versus non-Miami, with an average score of 21-19. The advantage of the model is the game script that Buffalo ran offensively to dominate time of possession, dominate on the ground, is something that Baltimore can replicate. At the same time, the defensive weakness on Buffalo due to injury was linebacker, right? They had only 3 healthy ones. One got hurt, one's old and is basically retired. Whereas that's Baltimore's strength is linebacker and then players like Kyle Hamilton at safety to stop the run. So that's why in the model, it's like, okay, imagine the Buffalo game last night versus Kansas City only with a top tier run defense. And, and if there's any defense that's equipped to handle a dynamic mobile quarterback with one good wide receiver and one great tight end, it's Baltimore, because that's pretty much who we've been for the last 5 years.
Okay. Good stuff there. Let's look at a couple quarterback profiles here. Now, what you're looking at, the ones with asterisks are plays that we do actually like, and we're looking at the model value and 100% agree with it. We'll probably make these picks. Overall, just showing you for all the quarterback props where the model stands against those. So not insanely strong value on everything, but we do like Lamar to go under his passing yards here.
Yeah, so this is we're seeing what we saw last week. So for the most of the year, Lamar didn't run that much, especially in the red zone, goal to go situations, I think to protect himself. But in got to have it situations, he ran twice. We have the under. The model has the under because Baltimore is such a good run offense, and Kansas City did struggle against Buffalo running the game against Josh Allen especially. At the same time, we do lean over us at really good plus value on over 1.5 passing touchdowns because Kansas City is very good goal line defense. Maybe not against Josh Allen, who's a gigantic human, but they are one of the best teams in that area. So it's not a guarantee that you just hand off to Gus Edwards in that situation. So I think that there's a lot of value here, especially with Mark Andrews likely back. So besides Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, and Zay Flowers, they have a lot of players that can get open in 2 or 3 yards of space.
It's more of a short pass moment here.
Yeah.
I like it. We're threading the needle. We're threading the needle a little bit. I can think of these things happening. All right. Any other Lamar questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. Let's head over to Patrick Mahomes here. Not a ton of model value on any of these props necessarily. Here's where we lean on all of the situations. One thing I don't have up here that Nick S. brought up was Mahomes' rushing yards. His line's 27.5. Do we think there's a chance he has to use his legs this weekend?
Yeah, the model's at 25. And so I do think that I was saying before our meeting that I hope I'm a Ravens fan, obviously if you didn't notice. But I do hope that we start putting out the PR out there that, to calling out Mahomes and his tendency when he runs to the sideline, he tries to act as if he's going to go out of bounds, but then he just keeps running for another 5 to 10 yards. And the AFC Championship game last year, they got that penalty that ultimately led to Kansas City beating Cincinnati with the late hit out of bounds. So we got to start, Ravens PR got to start putting it out there. Hey, can't let Mahomes do this stuff. If he's going to go out, he's got to go out, or we're going to take him out and work the refs the way Phil Jackson used to work the NBA refs back in the 90s. But as far as the game script, I mean, the fact is, like I said before, Rashee Rice's receiving yard line has been dropping right before our eyes. It went from 62.5 this morning down to as low as 51.5. So there's a lot of opinion. And besides, and Kelsey's line is not insanely high. It's around 63.5. So I think the betting markets are telling you that Baltimore's ability to stop Houston completely. Again, Houston is not as good as Kansas City, but they're similar in the fact that they have one great wide receiver, one good tight end. And so when Baltimore has their defense is facing a team that doesn't have 4 good receiving threats, they're configured to stop that team.
Mm-hmm. I don't see your screen pulled up, Steven, if you want to put that in here so we can head over to OddsJam. I want to just look through with you guys the rushing props and receiving props for both games, and we'll see if there's anything we like. I know one play we do like, we're going to head back to, is Justice Hill over 29.5 rushing yards. Took that last week, worked out, and you'll see if that works out again. Yeah,
and it's gone ticked up to 30.5, 31.5. This is, I don't expect a lot of act now line movement. I expect the lines to go up and down, except for maybe this one. I think I was right on this one with Justice Hill and his importance in our offense in every area of pass protection, but not only pass protection, he was hitting holes really hard. He's really improved his ball security from his first few years in the league and even earlier this season. So he's our most trustworthy, actually explosive running back at this point. So I think that this number is one that could continue to rise.
You're not scared of Dalvin Cook at all?
No, Dalvin was what we thought. When there's a hole, he'll burst through it. But I still think that they don't necessarily trust him in the pass protection and in not holding onto the ball.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Justice Hill, one running back we like in this game. Let's head over to some receiving props here for this game. I know OBJ is someone that we have some value on, projected in our model for 32 yards, and you can get his line as low as 23.5, I believe.
Yeah, we didn't have time last week. The Texans surprisingly just blitzed every play pretty much in the first half, and we weren't expecting that. And so Lamar didn't have any time for OBJ to get open down the field, resulting in a lot of sacks and not a good second quarter. So once the Ravens figured out they could run the ball and could stick to the run, OBJ wasn't targeted much, but he did catch one ball. I just think that this situation, Kansas City isn't going to do what Houston did and try to blitz Lamar and leave them vulnerable against the run. So this is the opportunity for OBJ to break out. He has not had a big game in quite a while since he had nearly 100 yards against the Rams over a month ago. He's only had 14, 13, 33, and 12. So this is one of those regression to the mean plays. In this case, the mean being 28 yards as opposed to the line 23.
How about Rashee Rice over here? His line was jumping around a little bit. The model hasn't projected for 70 yards, but you can get his line here in like the low 50s.
Yeah, this has been crazy. So it was, I checked at 9 a.m. I saw 61.5 as a low. Then Jake slacks me, says it's at 52.5. I say, Jake, you're an idiot. I just checked on this. I was like, not much could have changed. And then, then when I checked, it was 53.5. And now I'm checking again, it's 58.5 is the low. So if you were Jake, then you got it at 51.5. But I think this is going to settle back into the low 60s. I like oversendings. Again, Rice is I don't know if MVS is going to have another big game. But I know Rice is going to get targeted plenty. And he does have that. He does find those holes. And with our scheme, the Ravens scheme, we do leave players open in the middle of the field out of necessity because you can't stop everything.
All right. So I don't know. Is that something we act now on, or do we think it's going to go back down?
I'd act at 58.5. I think it's that.
I mean, that's still plenty of model value considering we have, I'd say we take that up to 60, right?
Maybe Jake's got to stop putting such large wagers down. He must have moved the line with
Yeah, shut it down. It's getting out of hand. All right, let's head over to the NFC Championship here. Again, we're favoring the home team to cover. You can still get 6.5 on DraftKings, I believe, correct?
Yeah, and it's actually 6.5 is now down in the consensus. So I think this one could come down to some weather. I saw this morning 0%, like basically no chance of rain, but now I saw it at 25% chance. And Brock Purdy is apparently the wicked witch of the West. So if he gets wet, he might melt. But in the end, I think the model has more faith in the overall numbers against quality opponents. And as good as the Lions story is, they are still 5-3 versus playoff teams this year with an average score of 22-22. So they're a very good. They're your average playoff team. San Francisco is 6-2, excluding Week 18, where they were resting, and they have an average playoff opponents of 29-18, and that includes that both teams lost big to Baltimore. So they're just a much better team. The 49ers, the big concern I would have for the Lions is their explosive play on the road away from their fast track at home. They not only score almost a touchdown more at home, it's that track, right? So players like Amon-Ra St. Brown, as great as he is, there's a reason why he slipped to the 5th round, I think, because he ran a 4.61. So every little bit counts, and that San Francisco field is pretty messy. And it's a lot different of a track versus at home at Detroit. So his yards per catch, I believe, go from like 14 at home to under 11 on the road. And it's just an overall, the explosive play that Detroit can do is going to be reduced. They also had to sign Zach Ertz, who's probably going to fill in for the injured Brock Wright, who's their blocking tight end, who also caught a long pass on a not trick play, but a smart play last week. So I don't know if Ertz can just come in day one and
yeah, it's a little scary. I don't know how I feel about that. But Derek mentioning in the chat, turf and artificial surfaces for St. Brown was averaging 13.4 yards per reception, goes down to around 10 when he plays on grass, and only has played 4 grass games this season. So could be an interesting situation for him. Let's quickly go through some of these quarterbacks here. Some plays we actually do like and have some value on is Brock Purdy to go over that 264.5 passing yards here. If we can look at OddsJam, see if that is the best value still.
Let's see. Purdy, you can get 260.5 now. So it looks like it could be coming down. Maybe some narratives around with Debo 50-50. Based on the line movement, it looks like Debo is certainly going to be hampered. Which hurt me because I had over 15.5 rushing yards with Debo, and that was blown up after the first 5 minutes. But yeah, whatever.
It is what it is. I know Jake's in the chat today. Can't be on camera, but he also likes Purdy to go over, to have an interception here. The model makes it 0.7, but still at even money, pretty good.
We like the over for Purdy because one thing about Detroit's defense, they've obviously won their 2 playoff games, but they haven't been playing good defense. Baker Mayfield had 350 passing yards. And the Rams have 367 passing yards. So they've allowed a ton of yards to the air. And on the road, they average over 8 yards per attempt allowed. And they allow 289 per game on the road this year. So I just think that's, San Francisco, Brock Purdy can have a below average. Purdy averages almost 300 passing yards per game at home. So so we're projecting a worse game at home than both teams average, in terms of yards allowed for Detroit and yards per for Brock. And we still have over because 260.5 is too low a line.
Right. And then let's head over to golf here. Not too much that we have big model value on, but still just worth taking a look at here.
Yeah, I don't like our unders in passing attempts and completions. That's I think that those aren't going to hold because I think Detroit will need to pass a lot to try to stay close. And I think that they can run the ball well enough to keep the chains moving, so it's not going to be 3 and outs. So I could see that that number. I wouldn't put much stock in those 2 under pass completions and under pass attempts.
Mm-hmm. And lines will start to move, and maybe we have some more value here come the end of the week. But as for right now, nothing we really want to hop on here. Let's head over to OddsJam here, talk about some rushing and receiving props that we might like as well. Let's start with We'll head to people are talking about CMC in the chat. We like him as well. We like him to go over 80.5 rushing yards. I know some people were talking about his rushing and receiving. Anything we like better in that situation? I think Jake was on rushing and receiving.
Yeah, you might need to act right away because with Debo not likely in there, and I thought he was going to have a significant role as a rusher. And McCaffrey and the backups for San Francisco didn't get any carries. So it looks like they're going 100% McCaffrey. So his number is up to 80. His best price is already up to 84.5. It's up 4 yards in the last 3 hours. So it might go up another yard an hour for the next till by afternoon. You might have to get 90. So I would pounce on 84.5 if you can.
All right, good to know an act now situation there. I'll put that on the recap screen, and then let's hit the receiving yards here. Nothing looks like we have a ton of value on ourselves, but if anyone has any questions on some receivers, we can certainly answer that.
Something jumped on me. Again, the Ertz stuff, it'll be interesting if that impacts the line. I don't think it will. Another player that we will want to spot is on San Francisco, Jennings. If Debo's out or at least limited, he had a big game in his absence last week. He had 5 catches for 61 yards. Ayuk, I wonder if his line is down because he didn't do much.
Yeah, someone in the chat was talking about Ayuk here and about the line secondary allowing a hefty amount of receiving yards per game.
Brandon Ayuk. So here's interesting. They haven't even posted his line most places. The only Prize Picks is the only one. So the books are also holding off judgment on wide receivers for San Francisco and tight end.
All right. Good stuff there. Good brainstorm start to the week of talking about these props. Again, we'll certainly have more to talk about through the week as new lines come out, as lines shift, etc. Steven, I'm going to give you a break. We're going to talk about some ways to make money tonight. I'm going to bring in John, talk a little NHL. We're back on the horse, John. We're going back to the shots on goal because we're not afraid. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the reason. We're a little afraid right now, but we're going to go with Kyle Connor on the Winnipeg Jets, over 3.5 shots on goal. It's plus 105 on DraftKings. They're playing the Bruins tonight. The Bruins allow the 8th most shots on goal against per game. Kyle Connor has hit this total in 5 of his last 6 games. All 6 games are in the Jets' 6-game win streak. The only game he didn't hit the number, he only played 7 minutes and 56 seconds. And in that game, he still had 3 shots on goal. So he's on a roll right now. The Jets are on a roll. They're playing a good team in the Bruins. I think he's going to shoot plenty, and I think the team should stay hot. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think Connor should at least get 4 shots on goal here, and we'll keep it around plus money to be safe.
Compensate. I like it. Shooting the shots, okay? We're just firing shots off. I like that we just keep going back to it. We're going to hit one. I know it. All right. That's all we have for NHL right now. Again, ask John in the chat for any other questions. Going to bring it back to the NBA with Steven now. A couple player props we want to run through quickly. We'll start with where are we starting? Yeah, we'll start with Milwaukee headed to Detroit here. A player prop we like.
Yeah, the teams just played, and Milwaukee put up 145, and Giannis didn't hit this number in that game. So I'm hoping Milwaukee wins by a lot, and Giannis sits. There's probably a 30% chance he doesn't sit the fourth quarter. Model has it at 46.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The unders 27-13 this year, and 9-3 when Milwaukee's a double-digit favorite.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move to the Spurs headed to Philly. Another player prop.
Yeah, Nicholas Batum. Again, Philadelphia is expected to win by quite a bit. And so I think Batum would be a player that stays on the court, even in a blowout. He averages only 5.5 at home, which is why the line is set at 5.5, but he's averaged 50% more than that the last 6 games. 7.5 points, but still, Model has him at 8. Okay. Spurs have a bad defense.
That's still value. Let's go to Minnesota. We don't do this a lot. Minnesota first half, we like versus Charlotte here. A lot less scary than that full game spread. Yeah,
we got a massive value on the game spread at Minnesota minus 20, but don't trust the spread that big with a backdoor cover. So I'm going with the first half at minus 8.5. Now, Minnesota does average more points per game in the first half than they do in the second half, but they also allow more, but you didn't hear that. Charlotte's point differential on the road is minus 13. Minnesota's plus 10 at home. And Charlotte has not been. They only scored 89 their last game.
Mm-hmm.
And also the big thing is motivation in this case. Minnesota has played poorly a couple times recently, and they lost at home to OKC. So that's got to be hopefully a motivating factor in the first half.
Right. I see Steve in the chat asking about Kobe White, someone we are certainly going to get to. But first, let's head to Boston going to Dallas. Big game here. And we want a big game from Kristaps Porzingis as well.
Yeah, he averages nearly 27 points and rebounds on the road because those are games that are usually closer. Boston's been destroying most teams at home except for Denver the other night. So the model has it exactly projected at his normal road average, which is 26.6. He averages 33 minutes a game when the spread is 5 or less versus under 30. This is just with Boston when the team's favored by more. And Al Horford, who missed the last game, is still a game-time decision. Drew Holiday is a game-time decision, so there might be more shots there. The revenge game, the one revenge game he had as a Wizard going back to Dallas, he had 24 and 9.
Mm-hmm. I'm all about the Porzingis props. He's been good to us this year.
Yeah.
Someone else we hear a lot about, we don't always act on ourselves, though, Kobe White, which Steven was talking about in the chat. We like him to go over 20.5 points. Am I completely out of it, or does this kind of feel like a large point total for him?
Well, it is if you look at the games. When he plays with Zach LaVine, he averages 15.9 in less than 34 minutes. That was have like a decent sample size, 25 games. But then the 19 games where LaVine's out, when LaVine just got hurt again, he averages 22 points with 38 minutes. Chicago's been scoring a ton of points recently, except for a 91-point game versus Cleveland that was in Paris. They scored 125, 116, 122, 131, 124, and 119. The Suns allow more points at home than they do on the road, and they allow 38% three-point shooting at home. So I think Phoenix is comfortable in a shootout with their big three all playing pretty well. So I like Kobe White to go over.
Mm-hmm. And Derek mentioning in the chat, Kobe White certainly has the green light to shoot with LaVine out. So this could be a good, not buy low situation, but I think after this game, people could start to realize the minutes he's going to be playing here. Mm-hmm. All right, one more NBA prop before we bring in our radio caller, Jake, with some NBA or with some college basketball plays. Let's talk about Atlanta. We like them to cover on the road in Sacramento. Line is, you can find it at 9, I believe. Most books at 8.
Every time I faded Sacramento this year, I think at home I've lost, I think. So I can't lose again. This would be like 4 in a row. Trae Young is out. He has a concussion, but 117 games with Trae Young and the 13 games without him, they have the exact same point differential because with him, they score around 3 more points a game, and they also allow 3 more points a game. So and from that perspective, he's not a plus person against the line. The Hawks actually have a better road point differential and -1 than at home. And Sacramento's home point differential is worse than it is on the road. So it's a pretty big number, +9, plenty of opportunity for a backdoor cover too for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Quick back to the NFL before I let you go. Drew asked about this earlier. When we talk about McCaffrey, do we feel more comfortable with his rushing yard total or his rushing and receiving yard total? You can get 127.5, it looks like, is what Drew can get on rushing and receiving.
Rushing and receiving is more comfortable for me because with the line steaming up on McCaffrey from 80.5 to as high as 88.5, we saw. The value on his receiving line went from around 34.5 to 30, just ticked up maybe a yard or two. He's the only one, the 49ers, with a posted receiving yard number. So we have him over 40 receiving yards. So we have more value on the receiving side, but we have slight value on both. Okay.
And then what about Justice Hill? This past weekend, we did take rushing and receiving. Do we like that again?
Probably. I don't know what his receiving yard line is at the moment. I wouldn't, because with Mark Andrews' status still not confirmed, and there could be a lot of feeling that they chose 2 tight end sets, so that could hurt Justice Hill being used as a receiver. I think the value is still safer with the running. He's a lot. Gus Edwards until this year was not only a big bruising back, he had real speed, and he almost never he didn't have like a negative rush for some insane first year of his career. And this year he's been noticeably stuffed beyond the line of scrimmage a lot more. And I think Justice Hill is actually hitting the holes harder inside the tackles.
Right. All right. Yeah. Good to know there. Let's head over to first-time caller, long-time listener, Jake. We're heading over to the NBA or college basketball here. Jake, can you hear us?
Yes. So unfortunately for you guys, you don't get to see my face for one more day. Still in cold Utah right now, but I got 2 props for you.
All right. And we're heading over to UNC. Big game for you to be putting up on the board here.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions about this game. We have slight value on under. I would not take the under in this game. I know there's some questions about that. I would definitely lean over. But even though we have undervalue, we have Ingram over 10.5 points, which I like a lot. He's gone over in 2 of his last 3 games, but he's been quiet shooting the ball. But I think this is going to be a fast-paced game, so I really like the over here, especially with Ingram. And another line moved to 11.5 in some sports books, so you can still get it at 10.5. I'd get that ASAP.
All right, a little act now moment. And we'll head over to the latest game of the night. Cincinnati headed to Kansas here, and a Kansas player prop from Jake. This is pretty crazy.
I know. I'm going with 2 big teams. I like Juwan Harris under 8.5. We have him at 7 points. He's just not much of a scorer. He's more of a passer. And Cincinnati, they're a pretty good team. They have a good defense. So I don't know how many shots Juwan Harris is going to get up. So I like the under here.
Okay. I take your word for it. I've never heard of him in my life, but all right, let's hit the recap screen quick. We went through a ton today. NHL, college basketball, and NBA all to be played tonight. NFL, these are just plays that we have some model value on. Wouldn't necessarily call them our official picks yet. We'll get to those later in the week, but a couple of things you might want to get your best value on now. Rashee Rice being one of them. Christian McCaffrey being one of them as well. Anyone I'm missing on here, Steven?
No, I was blanking. I was daydreaming about the Ravens. Sorry.
Yeah, fair enough. You can't all have nice things, so might as well be Steven just having an awesome Super Bowl run. All right, that's all we have time for today. As always, reach out to us on Twitter if you have any questions. We'll be hitting more NFL, talking through these games throughout the week to have another great weekend. So good luck with your bets tonight, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.